Ready to get this thing snap, crackle, and popping.
Absolutely, we live. Let the chat build a little bit. We'll jump
Yeah.
into it.
Let me see. Hold on 1 second. Du-du-du-du. Got it. We got everything. We getting in here. We go here. Make sure I got that plugged in. Okay.
Damn, all this just stuff on me.
Let's get into it. Fuck it.
All right, all right. Hello, and welcome to the Lost Confederacy channel. Going to do something a little bit different tonight. As you can see in the title, who is celebrating Juneteenth? I know we're about a couple of weeks away from the actual date, which is June 19th. But definitely is something that it needs to be discussed, especially among the American prisoners of war, which basically what we focus on this channel. So if you're new to us, again, you have myself, Chief Biko. We have Chief Alligator as well as Chief Quietwater. And we focus more so on that first letter in the acronym APOW, which is American. But as you see on that title, we're going to be focusing today on Juneteenth and what it represents, who it represents, and should we, as a collective, as a group, be celebrating this holiday. First and foremost, before we jump into anything, just want to get you all's thoughts on the holiday itself. Every chief on a panel here, and just let you, give your spiel on, and then we'll jump into some documents to see, what side of the coin we should actually land on.
For me, definitely don't mean anything to me in regards to the symbolism of it. As we will show on our live tonight, basically how it was presented to us and how people are just, we're just so happy that we got this federal holiday. We can take the day off and barbecue and go out and buy our red, black, and green outfits. But, just again, knowing how the system works, knowing how things work, it should not mean anything to anyone simply because of the fact that it didn't have anything to do with our freedom. It was something that was done in Texas, not for the whole landmass or whatever. So I think that we'll be able to just show on this live tonight, basically another slap in the face, basically what we were given.
Yeah, I'm rocking with everything y'all said. Only thing kind of in my mind right now, man, is everybody's heard of that term, the game is to be sold, not told, right? That's our problem as a group of people. People are selling us game. What we do on this channel is we have paperwork parties. So the truth should be free. So if you don't take anything else from this channel, and the chiefs that's on this channel, when an adult is telling you something and they can't show you what they're talking about, always remember that's their shit. So this holiday goes right in line with that, where there's a narrative going around that there was a civil war and that certain people were freed through the Emancipation and certain people were freed in Galveston, Texas. Well, if there was no civil war, what are we talking about? So it's on us, man. We're in the prime of our lives. We're adults. Our parents are up in age or dead. So at this point, as an adult, we got to tell other adults, stop with the bullshit. Let's tell the real story. Let's tell what really fucking happened. And actually, this is falling right in our laps because we're going to prove to you again why you're prisoners of war. This presentation is going to line right up with everything that we've been showing you, that we're under military occupation. The United States government has been waging unlawful wars on the people of the land, reclassifying them, which is what you do with prisoners. And so we're just going to drill down on that tonight, and we're just going to get into it. It's Gemini season. Fuck it. Let's crank it up. Oh, and if we're not prisoners of war, Tulsa, Oklahoma was May 31st, over 100 years ago. You still got survivors that are living from that experience. They haven't been compensated for their town being bombed and destroyed. So if you ain't a prisoner of war, then what do you call that in my juvenile voice? It's on you, Chief Biko.
Great intros from both of you. Definitely got to shout out Chief Quietwater for that excellent preview or intro video for today's topic. And yeah, basically everything that both Chief Quietwater and Chief Alligator said is what we're going to be breaking down today. Again, continuing to show the lawful documents of why we say we are prisoners of war. And it's due to these unlawful wars that have been continually waged on our group of people. And, you know, our first document that we'll jump into will be the power of Congress. You know, we love pulling up their constitution because it just shows the hypocrisy that they always pretty much play by. You know, they'll claim to uphold the Constitution on one end, but when it comes to pretty much a lot of their things, a lot of industries, how they run their whole system doesn't really fall in alignment with that. So again, we'll go ahead and display that for you all, and we'll jump straight into the topic for tonight. So of course, we always have to start with the powers of Congress. Automatically have it popped up here. If you have that document, which it should be pinned within the chat, it's going to be that first one. It's going to drop you straight to Article 1, Section 8. Again, we've been doing this so long, I know it like the back of my hand. So Article 1, Section 8 is going to list the powers of Congress. And the powers that we always stress have to be these two that we're going to be highlighting today. So 1, Congress has the power to declare war, grant letters of marque and reprisal, and make rules concerning captures of land and water. This is very key. Again, we continue to issue this challenge to any scholar, any constitutional scholar at that, any teacher, any politician. Show us the document where Congress declared a civil war. If you could show us this document, this channel will be shut down. So far, nobody has been able to show us this document. And why? Because Congress declares war. So again, if Congress never declared this civil war, why are people calling it a civil war? And why is there a holiday now, June 19th, that is celebrating the quote unquote emancipation or freeing of slaves from the ending of a quote unquote civil war? That in itself shows you that, okay, something isn't right. What is this political theater that we're dealing with right now? So again, Congress has the power to declare war, grant letters of marque, and make rules concerning captures of land and water. And last but not least,
hold on 1 second, Chief Biko.
Go ahead.
Quietwater, have you put the document in the chat?
I have.
Okay. All right. So for everybody that's listening to this build tonight, always pay attention to the top of the chat, because Chief Quietwater will be putting the document or the proof of claim that we're going to be building off of as we go through it. So you can download it and have it for your records. It will also be in the description section of the video that premiered this live. So you know how we do over here, y'all. We like to have paperwork parties. So we're going to give you the documents so you can read them to your kids, read them to your other family members, because this whole dumbing us down shit, this shit over with. My bad. Go ahead, Chief Pico.
Absolutely, absolutely. And again, definitely click on those documents to follow along with us. Again, as he stated, that way you can have for your records, but also so you can know exactly where we're at, especially if it's a little bit hard to see whether you're looking at it from your mobile device or, you know, an iPad or whatever. Definitely go ahead and click on these documents yourself so you can follow along as well. So again, going back to the powers of Congress, just stated who has the power to declare war, which is Congress, and also who has the power to make law is going to be Congress as well. So 2 things, 2 takeaways. Congress has the power to declare war, and Congress has the power to make law. What we'll see later on in this build is that the passing of this holiday, Juneteenth, went through Congress. Now, the question is for the people in the audience, if Congress passed a holiday, which is supposed to be for our group of people, how come Congress does not pass any or make any resources or write our group of people into law? So you can make a holiday that's supposed to represent our group of people, but you can't make a law or write anything into law as far as resources or anything for our group of people. definitely gotta let that wrap around, your mind, let that sink in. Because again, this is just showing you how they'll pretty much benign and neglect us, give us little trinkets, symbolism. But when it comes to actual resources, when it comes to actually, putting us into this system, actually defining us, which we always go back to with that 1968 Indian Rights Act, where they actually defined the Indian, they won't do anything like that. Even speaking on the presentation as far as the intro, we saw how the George Floyd policy pushed off.
Right.
About a month later, you have the Asian hate bill, writing no discrimination towards Asian and Pacific Islanders.
Specifically.
Specifically.
With no hesitation.
No hesitation. Within a week, I believe they had it all done within about 60 days. So
and the
this
thing
is
with
what,
us,
go ahead.
I'm sorry. No, what I was going to say, the thing with us is that, it didn't take much for them, but they did stand together to make that happen. With us, we did the marching and all of that, and we still didn't get anything. And then we just quietly just went away with our lives, like nothing happened. Like that man didn't just get killed on the ground in front of the world to see.
Right. But the reality is, as we move through, you're not going to get anything. That's the whole purpose of this channel. You're prisoners of war. So the more we have these paperwork parties, the more we're shaking that tree and we're seeing that rotten fruit fall from the tree, because this information should have been readily available to us 60 years ago, but it's been packaged and neatly avoided to talk about this. So I've said it on Sonetta, I've said it on this channel plenty of times. This government has never defined what Negro, Black, and colored is. However, for theater purposes, you have a Black congressional caucus. It's the oldest caucus that's a part of this government. And it's embarrassing and it's a slap in the face to have this skin complexion and come to the reality that you got a whole caucus that's the oldest and the largest that's a part of this government, and it's called Black, and Black ain't even defined by this Congress in law, but Indian is. So the reality is you're not going to get anything. And I'm not saying that to be downer, because I'm a part of this group too. I'm just saying realistically, as a grown ass man, as a grown ass adult, that's what we're going to do tonight. We're going to have a real conversation. We ain't playing around with it. You haven't gotten anything because we're prisoners of war. That's why you can see illegal immigrants come in right now and get benefits and housing and food stamps. Come on, like, we see it. You're the only group of people getting killed on video. So by this time, the people that's rocking with us, we already know what it is. It's just that you cannot be a part of something that's not your inherent form of government. Your inherent form of government is a confederacy. This government comes from monarchy. Yeah, we helped them set it up, but their ideas and their way of life, they were used to monarch. So this shit is never going to rhyme with how we move and how we operate. We're supposed to be up on the laws of confederacies. So let's get into it.
Excellent point. And that's just going to lead us right into our next topic that we have to really understand, which is the presidential powers. So what we're going to do again is basically have a civics 101 lesson. So we just showed you who makes law, what is the legislative branch. That's going to be Congress, which consists of course, the Senate and House of Representatives. They declare war, they make law, they make rules concerning the capture of land and water. So that will be the Congress's powers. Now, the next thing we have to look at is, okay, what are the executive branch's powers? What does or what can the president of the United States do with his or her powers? So with that, we'll jump here into the presidential powers. So again, we have Article 2, I believe, Section 2. And again, go ahead and follow along. If you're with us within the chat, go ahead and click on this. Everything should link you exactly to what we're previewing on our screens here. And Section 2 reads, the president shall be the commander-in-chief.
Hold on 1 second, Chief Eco. Chief Quietwater, did you put it in the chat? Okay.
So we have Section 2 here.
And that's the only reason I'm saying that. We just don't want to, go too fast. We want to give them a minute to click on it, open it up.
Got you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I know I was muted, but yes, it's in there. I'm doing it as he says it. Starts it.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. So as we see here, section 2 states the president's powers, and it says the president shall be the commander-in-chief of the Army and Navy of the United States and of the militia of several states. When called into actual service of the United States, he may require the opinion in writing of the principal officer in each of the executive departments upon any subject relating to the duties of their respective offices. And he shall have power to grant reprieves and pardons for offenses against the United States, except in cases of impeachment. So it's a lot within that first paragraph, and it's a lot that pretty much ties into exactly what we read when we pretty much debunk that there was a civil war. Who gave, or which power, or which branch rather, emancipated the so-called slaves, or the slaves? It was the executive branch. And who also gave pardon to those rebel states? It was the executive branch. So that falls right in alignment when it says here pardons of offenses against the United States, because again, they were in rebellion. It wasn't a war, it was a rebellion. Also, another thing we have to go ahead and point out is here, the president is the commander-in-chief of the Army and Navy of the United States, but not only that, of the militia of several states. I believe we haven't played this video in a while, but if you go back into our vaults, if you go back and look at any of our previous videos, you will see that we played a certain video from, I forget who the actual organization was, but I know it's Jonathan Greenback, and he was over a particular organization that was for like anti-hate groups. And what he, I'll go ahead and say, proclaim, pretty much, announced to the world, was that a lot of militia members were embedded into this, United States system, whether it was judges, sheriffs, police officers, even down to your, I believe even said some of your religious leaders. So if we're looking at this and we understand that the president is over, again, not only the Army, the Navy, but also other militia, doesn't it make sense that he's also over these judges, police officers, county clerks, these religious leaders who are also a part of these so-called militias of several states? So when we look at, again, this presidential powers, and as we continue to build, see who made, or who actually said that, these slaves are free, doesn't it make sense that you are still underneath military occupation if it's coming from the executive branch, in particular the president? And I'll let you all kind of build on that, and we'll keep it moving.
Okay. I'm just gonna keep it simple. Keep that part right there highlighted if you can, and minimize that browser. For anybody that's opened that document themselves, highlight that first sentence up into that first comma where it says the president shall be commander-in-chief of the Army and Navy of the United States and the militia. Highlight that, put a pin in it. We're going to make these documents talk. They're going to sing tonight like James Brown. We're going to run a string through it. On you, Chief Quietwater.
Yeah, I mean, again, just basic civics. We just need to understand how it works. It's plain and simple. It's in black and white right there. That's all I gotta say. I think it's pretty simple.
Absolutely, absolutely. So with that, we'll go ahead and jump into our next document. And this is going to be a good one. This is one I have on my my background, but I'm definitely going to blow it up so you all can see it a little bit better.
And you got it placed in the chat, Chief Quietwater? Okay.
And y'all let me know if it's clear on you all's end. I think I should be able to make it bigger as well. How's that looking, Chief Quietwater and Alligator?
Is there a key so it shows the date on it?
Yeah.
It looks good.
Let me see if it shows it here. I think when I back out, it should show the date. Let me back out real quick. So they have here that it was created and published in 1862. So smack dab right in the heart of the rebellion.
Okay.
So as we go back here, just to build this up, make sure everybody sees it. They have this whole East Coast all the way to the Mississippi River listed as the Military Department of the East. Then we see here, west of the Mississippi, kind of pretty much before Texas going into above present day Oklahoma. We have the Military Department of the West, Military Department of Texas, New Mexico, Utah, California, as well as Oregon. But what we're going to be focusing on today will be Military Department of the East, as well as the Military Department of Texas. Because what we'll see is that two documents that come from this United States Army, one being a field order, one being a general order, one comes from this department and the other will come from this department. So as you can see here, again, these are all roped off, all segregated, all categorized by certain sections. So this is very key as well. And again, this is happening in 1862, in which this map was published and created. So it's showing you where's the jurisdiction is. And again, who is the commander-in-chief of the Army and Navy? That would be the president. Anybody want to build off that, or are we good?
Yeah, this is an important map because contrary to what we were taught in school, we were taught that the First World War happened in the early 1900s. Based on government records, the First World War was really against us. And we can say that because we had to fight Spain, we had to fight the French, and we had to fight the British on the East Coast. So by 1862, we are completely infiltrated, and we can see all the different military branches that the United States government has set up before it starts carving out individual states west of the Mississippi River. And that is very important because when we're talking about reparations or getting back in alignment with other civilized and organized groups of people on planet Earth, we can never stand all the way back up and be perpendicular at a 90-degree angle without having a military defense. And I just think it's mind-boggling to me that we'll march, we'll talk about paperwork, but we will not talk about protecting ourselves. And that is rule number one on planet Earth, self-preservation. So we can clearly see by 1862, all of what we know as North America, the United States government has military personnel there. So at this point, it's just a matter of just getting rid of those isolated pockets of resistance that still exist amongst our people. But as far as a whole, and the empires or the confederacies that we had on this land, by 1862, we were completely taken over. But we are not a weak group of people, because
that's what I was gonna say. I said, and this was clear that they had to go to this extent because it is not like we were just sitting down and allowing it to happen. You know, they had to come with a big military force in order to do what they did. So I think that's important to know too, if we understood, again, knowing the history and not being ignorant of it, that we didn't just sit down. You know, they did have to use a lot of force in order to make this happen against us.
Absolutely. And another thing I just kind of want to point out, just so it can really make sense for the viewer, let's just take a look at Texas and see how many forts were set up. Because again, this is one of the departments in which this general order came from. So you can see that Texas had a very huge military complex or military work camp going on within this state. It's pretty much a fort every at least 2 miles away from each other.
Wow.
Now, when we take a look in contrast to the Military Department of the East, all of their forts are going to be on the coast. You can see here, all the way up the East Coast, close Atlantic, going into the North Atlantic, things of that nature. But when it comes into the interior, not a lot of forts. And I think this is going to be key as well, because again, this story as far as Juneteenth with the freeing of slaves, we have to ask ourselves, is that our story?
Right.
If your family is coming from the Southeast region, aka Muskogee Creek Confederacy, you can see that there weren't a lot of European forts being set up within any of this interior, y'all. But when it comes to Texas itself, that shit is stamped.
Right,
That's
but
a
you got to
good
throw one thing
observation.
out there before we give the European too much credit. Back out a little bit. All right. Well, what we have to keep in mind is what we know as Texas was Mexico. That's a whole separate government. So you got to remember the European was fighting. Who knows how many tribes were in that area of what they carved out to be Texas, but we know Mexico lost ground because Texas was a part of Mexico.
Correct.
So it's just like the Capitol buildings on the East Coast or everything east of the Mississippi. And I just want to say this because we always talk about we need our own, we need our own. I want to clarify, we do need our own, but we have to reverse engineer what happened to us. The European didn't start from scratch. What he did was made us step out of office in the office. So it's not like we have to build the Capitol building. The Capitol building was there.
Right.
They just pulled up with militias and made us step down. And that's one of the things so when you see all these forts, those forts were already there. It's just that as one military lost ground and they retreat, they left those things vacant. Somebody else comes in and sets up shop. So we definitely don't want to give that European that kind of credit that in 1862, he's built all those forts. No, those forts were there and previous battles were won or lost. Let's do the math. 1830 was Indian Removal Act.
Right.
So you telling me in 32 years, you built all them in Texas while you still fighting unlawful Seminole wars on the other side? Just wanted to throw that point in.
That's a great point. That's a great
Yeah,
point.
that's a good point.
And with that, we'll continue. So again, looking at this map, understanding where, which department was over which particular area. This is going to be very key as we continue to build today. With that, that'll jump us straight into this transcript here of the proclamation, or Emancipation Proclamation as they like to call it. And what we'll do here is just read this first paragraph. And again, I think we'll jump back to the presidential powers to see exactly what we meant, and also show what we were highlighting in the beginning of who has the power to declare war, make law, and also what are the presidential powers. So as we see here, it says that on the first day of January in the year of our Lord, 1863, all persons held as slaves within any state or designated part of a state, the people whereof shall then be in rebellion against the United States, shall be then, thenceforward, and forever free, and the executive government of the United States, including the military and naval authority thereof, will recognize and maintain the freedom of such persons, and will do no act or acts to repress such persons or any of them in any efforts they may make for their actual freedom. So this falls right into alignment with what we just saw here. The president is the commander-in-chief. The president is the main position within that executive branch. And again, he's the commander-in-chief of not only the Army and Navy, but also of the militia. And it states here that the executive government of the United States, including its military and naval authority, will recognize and maintain the freedom of these newly freed slaves, again, only recognized by the executive branch. So that's very key, because again, Congress isn't recognizing them. So there is no laws being for this group of people, but it's definitely key to see who is recognizing this group. You all want to kind of build on that?
Yep. Just highlight after that, forever free, and the executive government of the United States, including the military and naval authority thereof. That's it right there. Keeping it simple, the way this government's supposed to work, it's already been stated. Congress makes law. Congress never declared a war. Therefore, Congress never recognized the group of people that Abraham Lincoln is recognizing. So what happens when the military and the naval authority leave whatever area that the president tells them to go. Stay with me, people. For anybody that's watching this video, if you're forever free, you're only forever free when the naval and military people are around. What happens when they get deployed somewhere else? What happens to you? Remember, you were never recognized by Congress.
Right.
And if you're never recognized by Congress, then what is there to interpret in the judicial branch about laws that were made for you? So you see the quagmire they put us in? You're only recognized by the military and the naval authority.
Right.
So once they get deployed to somewhere else, you right back where you started from. Now you fall under the jurisdiction of the sheriff, the militia, and any other FBI agency that may or may not be in that area. So that's a critical point that is never talked about with this Emancipation Proclamation. It was not law, and your freedom was only recognized by the military and the naval authorities. Chief Whitewater?
Yeah, I think that that's important for us to understand, just the indoctrination, you know, that what we've been taught is the total opposite of what is really in black and white for us to see. I think that realizing that we are not defined in anything and it's not law, I think that that's I think that's the basis and the importance of what we need to understand in order for us to get the big picture, basically. My thoughts.
Definitely agree with both of you all. And it's very important for us to understand who has the power to do what, and where this, I guess you could say, quasi freedom was coming from. It was coming from the executive branch. So as it states here, if this military isn't there to protect or sustain your freedom, then what happens? As Chief Alligator stated, you go back to the jurisdiction of the state, and then after that, the jurisdiction of the federal government, which has nothing in its laws that are protecting you. So again, are you actually free, or are you a prisoner of war being military occupied? Because it states here, again, the president is the commander-in-chief of the Navy and Army. So if they can give you your freedom, what is that telling you? You're under military occupation. You're a prisoner of war, a prisoner of unlawful wars at that. So again, this is very key, and there's a lot of stuff within this Emancipation Proclamation, which we'll come back to once we get into some later builds, because it's going to rhyme exactly to what we're seeing, what we will see in one of the general orders that we'll be pulling up. Let me see here. So with that, that brings us straight into our first, I'll say, Army legislative or Army writings, basically this Special Field Order number 15. And what we're going to do, and what I want for the chat to do as well, once you pull up this document, definitely go ahead and pin this or just open this up in your tab. And what we'll do is compare and contrast what this Special Field Order 15 says and what this General Order 3 through 5 says. And let's just have, an adult conversation to see what gives more power, or what would give more resources, and what was actually recognized by this government, as we see with a holiday. So I'll go ahead and open this up. And as it states here, headquarters, military division of the Mississippi. So going back to that military department map, this will be coming from the military department of the East in totality, but specifically from its Mississippi military division. In the field, Savannah, Georgia, January 16th, 1865. So it states here, section 1, the islands of Charleston.
Hold on. Before you get into the read, scroll to the bottom so the people can see.
What's that?
Who wrote it?
Hold on, we'll have to go to the next page. So as you see here, it's going to be Major General T. Sherman.
Okay. So to the people that's in the chat and to the people that's listening to this video, can a major general write law? Let's keep this simple. can a major general write law, or does Congress write law? So this document that we're about to read is where you get the 40 acres and a mule from. We're not concerned with the content on this paper. What we have to understand is civics and jurisprudence, how government works. This is not law coming from a major general, but they tell us, because we don't read, people who don't look like us and people who do look like us, that we never got our 40 acres and a mule. But understand why you're not going to get 40 acres and a mule. A major general in the Army does not write law. Go ahead, Chief Pico.
Correct. Correct. And again, like you stated, understanding government structure, understanding each branch's power, a major general would come underneath the executive branch and would come underneath the president. Can the president write law? Not at all. Going back to what Chief Alligator stated, that would be Congress. So as he stated, anything as far as the substance within this actual document, we're not worried about. But as he stated, this is what has been told to us that we're supposed to receive. Yet again, a general cannot make law, and neither can a president. So let me go in and highlight, back a little bit too much.
Can you do a quick find on this special field order?
I'm not sure if it'll let me. What are you trying to quick find?
Plantations.
Plantations. Here we go. I just found it right here. Yeah, it won't let me quick find it, but we have it here.
Is that, let's see.
Quartermaster, plantations.
Okay. That sentence right there. All right. So for those that are looking at this document, what you have to understand is, as the United States government's military was conquering sections of land, that land went up under their military. Let me say that again. As the United States military was expanding and gaining more and more territory in North America, the land they conquered, the people that were there, the towns that was there, the revenue that was being generated out of it, it fell up under the military. This sentence proves that on this special field order, the quartermaster may, on the requisition of the inspector of settlements and plantations, place at the disposal of the inspector one or more of the captured steamers to ply between the settlements and one or more of the commercial points hereto named in orders. Simply put, quartermaster is a military position. The quartermaster was over inspector of settlements and plantations. So what we have to understand is TV showed us a European family with a couple of rednecks on horses with guns, and they just had all these Americans just working faithfully for nothing. That's not what happened. The military was making the people in that town work for them. We have to be clear on that. This idea that there was slaves on plantations is them speaking with a forked tongue. These were prisoners of war on military work camps. Who is over them? The quartermaster of the army.
And I think that's, I mean, even learning that information when we read it the first time, what that put it in perspective to me. You know, like you see those images growing up in school, you see the slaves picking cotton and things like that. But really, it was the military. They had to have a force behind us to, you know, to make their whole plan work. So it's not like we were just these weak people and, you know, we were just, you know, made to do all of these things. It had to be, they had to use the military, as they do today when they have to call out the National Guard when we rise up.
Correct. And it makes sense why they would put that slave tag on our group of people, just to make it, just to keep the lie going. Because if you say prisoner of war, then you say, okay, what war are they prisoners of? And then you have to say, okay, well, the Seminole War, then, okay, they're prisoners of war of the Seminole War, but where's the Declaration where Congress declared a war? Oh, you can't find it. So you see how they have to tell one lie to cover up another lie to cover up another lie until it just gets to the point where none of the shit makes sense. Because again, we know who the slaves are, but when they try to put that tag on us, doesn't quite fit right based off of all of the documents and all of the history that we see. Because a slave doesn't invent anything. A slave doesn't create anything. So you see how they have to put that tag on our group of people, because if they put that prisoner of war tag, then Pandora's box is open. Okay, the prisoners of war, but what war? Again, you can't even find a declaration of a civil war, let alone a Seminole war. So as we could see, within these documents, as you stated, their chief alligator, them speaking with a forked tongue, it makes sense because they have to, in order to keep this fictitious government running and pretty much under the guise of, actually hiding what has actually happened, which is military occupation.
Can you pull up the 1755 Militia Act as we go through this build as well? Because we're going to want to pull a definition out of that. But definitely anybody listening to this bill right now, look up the definition of quartermaster so you can clearly understand what their responsibility is. That was a military personnel. And it makes sense why they would have the military overseeing towns after they defeated our defenses, because the military is all about structure and order. So the government stands a better chance to get as much revenue out of an area if the military is overseeing it versus a private business owner. That military, they're going to be up 5 a.m. They're going to make sure they get everything, no shorts. So we have to keep that in mind. And unfortunately, we got a lot of people who look like us who aren't doing what Dr. Carter G. Woodson suggested to us. When you find out something, you're supposed to come back to your people and put them on game. All right, while you're looking for that document, okay. Can you do a quick find on the Militia Act of 1755?
Yeah.
Okay. Quick find Freedmen.
Freedmen.
And if you can put that link in the chat as well, Chief Quietwater, so they can have it. Okay.
So I'm gonna need this link. Okay, thank you.
All right. If you can go
Drop.
up a couple of sentences, go up a couple of sentences above Freeman.
Above Freemen, okay.
Maybe 4, in compliance.
In compliance.
Right there. Up.
1.
One
Okay,
more.
I see it.
Right there. All right, so what we're showing you right now is where the term freedman comes from, real quick. And this is the Militia Act of 1755. So it says, in compliance with the said petitions and recommendations, do offer it to the governor to be exact, and be it enacted by the Honorable Robert Hunter Morris, Esquire. Here we go. Here's the key, y'all. With the King's royal approbation, Lieutenant Governor under the Honorable Thomas Penn and Richard Penn, Esquires, true and absolute properties of the province of Pennsylvania and the counties of Newcastle, Kent, and Sussex upon Delaware, by and with the advice and consent of the representatives of the freemen of the said province and General Assembly. What did I just say to just keep it real simple? The freeman is a England or a European term. So again, what they're doing is trading places. You got to look at, where did this freeman come from? That came from Europe. Now there's another freeman in here where the king actually, or his majesty, is actually going to tell the people that he's sending from Europe to America that they will be considered free. So we got to find that other language in here. If you want to scroll a little bit further down and find the other freeman. Let's see. So you scroll down toward the bottom. There it is, His Majesty. Okay, here we go. Hold on. All right, the last paragraph where it says provided always. All right, provided always that the article so to be and established shall contain nothing repugnant, but be as near as possible conformable to the military laws of Great Britain and to the articles of war made and established by His Majesty in pursuance of the last act of Parliament for punishing mutiny and desertion, the different circumstances of this province compared with Great Britain, and a voluntary militia of freemen. Freemen is what the Majesty from Great Britain called its people when they sent them over here. Is everybody clear on that that's watching this video? I'll read it one more time. Provided always that the articles so to be and established shall contain nothing repugnant, but be as near as possible conformable to the military laws of Great Britain. So when I send you peasants over here to America, your military is going to be in alignment with my military over here in Europe. That's what he's saying. And to the articles of war made and established by His Majesty. So they're gonna operate the same way their Majesty did in Europe, in pursuance of the last act of Parliament for punishing mutiny and desertion. So basically, if you try to run off or desert, fighting and occupying what I'm sending you over there to that New World for, you're gonna come up under the act of Parliament for punishment of mutiny and desertion. The different circumstances of this province compared with Great Britain, and of a voluntary militia of freedmen compared with mercenary standing troops being duly weighed and maturely considered. What we're showing you is freemen are those people who came from Great Britain over here. They were not us. Anything
We got
else?
it so twisted. We got it so twisted. And of course, without reading this information, this is, another eye opener for me. What we've been taught is the total opposite. So they basically just, like you said, traded places with us. So again, just understanding the history and understanding the positions that they held when they came over here. So like it's showing us right here that this was used in Great Britain, the laws of Great Britain. So that's definitely powerful information.
I definitely agree with that. Definitely agree with that. One, it just shows you where that term came from. Freeman comes from, what is this, England? So it's an English term denoting Europeans. So when we hear the Freedmen's Bureau, we should automatically think Europeans. But again, as you stated that Chief Quietwater, we have it so, screwed up, with the brainwashing in these school systems, as well as just, these scholars saying that, the freedmen pertains to our group of people, when it's clearly showing you here that this term was specifically for Europeans who were sent over by Great Britain. So specifically Great Britain's Europeans sent over here on this land to set up shop. And those who were, as Chief Alligator stated, that were still, slaves or indentured servants, it even goes down here that they could not be a part of the militia unless they were admitted by or had consent from whoever their master or mistresses were, or their parents or guardians. So they're showing you, okay, if you're one of those, just paid off your debt, Great Britain, peasant class, you can volunteer. You're free out there. But if you still have debt to pay, if you're still classified or listed as an indentured servant, you ain't no way you fighting in this war, because if you die, who gonna pay off this debt? So we'll leave the onus on your master, your mistress, or your parent or guardian to see if they want to allow you to be able to fight or preserve, self-preservation on this foreign land, which is our land, America.
Right. Read that section that you got highlighted real quick, just so the people that are listening can get a clear understanding of what you just said.
Got you. So it states here, I'll highlight the whole thing. provided also that no youth under the age of 21 years, nor any bought servant or indented apprentice shall be admitted to enroll himself or be capable of being enrolled in the said companies or regiments of, again, the militia, without the consent of his or their parents or guardians, masters or mistresses in writing under their hands first and obtained.
So what are they saying right here? Keeping it simple. What is that little paragraph saying?
Basically, nobody who is indebted, no slave, shall be able to fight within this militia unless given consent by your master, your parent, or guardian.
Okay. It's also showing that these people coming from Europe were being bought as servants.
Mhm.
That first sentence, no youth under the age of 21 years, nor any bought servant or intended apprentice. They were shipped over here and they were bought as servants. So think about it. If I'm a private landowner and I got a tobacco farm, when that boat unload, who am I buying? Africans or European servants? Indented apprentice. So we cracking codes tonight. Y'all rock with us, man. It's Gemini season. We getting ready to go straight up through there, man. No motion, straight up the middle, man. Goal line, half back blast on one. Go ahead, Chief Quietwater.
Just someone in the chat asks, and I just want to make sure, freemen and freedmen with a D, that is used interchangeable, right? Yeah, okay. I just wanted to make sure. Okay.
Great question, because that's, again, kind of how they'll, twist words,
Wordplay.
try to, the wordplay. Freedmen, whether it's with a D, whether it's, singular.
Right.
It's free man or freedman. It's the same thing, but
Right,
definitely
but let's
great
think
question.
about it for a second. For just whoever asked that question, let's put your capitalist hat on. Let's say you are a owner, right? When you bought that human that came off that boat, that's an investment. So whether you bought him as a servant, meaning he had little to no skill set, right? Think about it, y'all. Let's just put yourself in boss mode. When that boat pulls up and they unload them people, you already know what you need for your property. So when you go to that sale to go buy your capital, to go buy your chattel or your humans, you may say, well, shit, I got my tobacco fields on lock. You know what I'm saying? My baby mama done had 3 more kids, need a house servant. I'm talking real. So when I get to the boat, when these Europeans coming off, I'm telling the man up front, I'm looking to buy a servant. The indented apprentice, he's somebody that has a skill set. But both people, whether you're servant or indented apprentice, you're going to be indebted to the person that invested in you and bought you. You won't be a quote unquote freeman until he get his money back. Y'all with me?
Correct.
So whoever asked that question, look at it like that. You're free with rid of your current debt.
Correct. And great breakdown, because that's exactly what it is. You're indebted or indented for a particular contract or a particular length of time until you have paid off, whether it be that debt or you have worked off that contract, and then you can now become or claim or have the status of a freeman. So great breakdown there. With that, I know we last left off on the field order. So again, showing where that came from, a general. So just go back to make sure we're in alignment. Believe it was General Sherman or Major General Sherman. And as we stated before, a general cannot make law, neither can a president. And who makes law? That'll be your Congress. So understand.
1 second. Hold on before you go back one more time. Go to that last paragraph next to the section 4, where it says Brigadier General R. Saxton is hereby appointed Inspector of Settlements and Plantations. Who was over plantations from the Carolinas to Florida on the southeast coastal area, which is where this Special Field Order 15 was made? Who's over the plantations, y'all? The Brigadier General. That means that these were military work camps. this whole idea of whatever movie that you want to think about, 12 Years a Slave, where you just got everyday white people working us to death. No, the military was overseeing plantations. That's the last thing I want to add on that.
Correct. And just to make it all tie in, to make, everything make sense, I think we have to show who was allowed to be in these areas. So going back and understanding exactly what Chief Alligator just stated, that the Brigadier General was the Inspector of Settlements and Plantations. He's over these plantations. And we'll just read here. Beaufort, Hilton Head, Savannah, Fernandina, St. Augustine, and Jacksonville, the blacks may remain in their chosen or accustomed vocations, but on the islands and in the settlements hereafter, who's over the settlements and plantations, that Brigadier General, to be established, no white person whatever, unless military officers and soldiers detailed for duty, will be permitted to reside. So, again, going back to exactly what Chief Alligator just stated, who was over these plantations? The military. The only people that could be within these areas, settlements and plantations, were military officers and soldiers detailed for duty. So no regular white civilian, no mom and pop shop, no, again, one man and his family with 500 niggas on his land with men, like 2 men on horses with, long guns, controlling this group of people. That was not what was going on. As you see here, it says military officers and soldiers detailed for duty, meaning this was a task for them to do. Occupy these Negroes.
And that stayed like that till 1965 when they ended desegregation. That's why I always use the phrase intense military occupation. They reclassified it and called it Jim Crow. But Jim Crow, again, was, what's the word I'm looking for? It's a lie. It wasn't Jim Crow. You were military occupied.
Correct.
And the special field orders or general orders, do the homework on the area you come from. The South is littered with special field orders and general orders from the Carolinas to Texas. Let's keep it pushing. We just showing everybody tonight why we say we prisoners of war. We ain't guessing. We ain't just trying to come up with a tricky term. The documents say what it is.
Right.
Absolutely. So we just saw Special Field Order 15, proclaiming to give the Negro 40 acres, written by a general, or the orders given by a general. Brigadier General was over the settlements and plantations. Now we have a general order that we're going to be looking at. And in particular, this general order is where the Juneteenth holiday comes from. So what we'll read are these general orders is 3 through 5. And I'll start with general order number 3, Headquarters District of Texas.
Let them clearly know who wrote it. Let them know who wrote it. So we'll know it's not law.
As you can see here on the bottom, you have a Major Assistant Adjutant General, F.W. Emory.
So can he make law is the only question we want to ask the people. Congress makes their law. So here, tying in the Emancipation Proclamation, Lincoln is over the Military and Naval Authority. Lincoln tells one of his Army personnel, hey, go out there to Texas and write a general order. What we have to do as a group of people is understand government, how it's supposed to work in jurisprudence. Does this letter free anybody in Galveston, Texas? To everybody listening. The answer would be no, because Congress makes law, not a damn major and assistant adjutant general out of the Army. Go ahead, Chief.
Basically just an announcement.
Absolutely. Just an announcement, and it's exactly what Lyndon B. Johnson says every time we read on Sunday. A proclamation is not fact. Basically what he's saying is a proclamation is not law. None of that shit mattered that Lincoln said. Because if I write an executive order as me, if I'm wearing the hat of Lincoln and I write an executive order, that next president can come right behind and say, yeah, that executive order is now void. All that shit is bullshit. Now what? Versus a law, Okay, now you have to go into making amendments, things of that nature to supersede or to ratify that law. So again, understanding procedure, understanding who has the power to do what. So as we state here, headquarters District of Texas, remembering that military map, Military Department of Texas. So this would come underneath that. And it states here, the people of Texas are informed that in accordance with a proclamation from the executive of the United States, again, a proclamation is not fact, all slaves are free. This involves an absolute equality of personal rights and rights of property between former masters and slaves, and the connection heretofore existing between them becomes that between employer and hired labor. The freedmen are advised to remain quietly at their present homes and work for wages. They are informed that they will not be allowed to collect at military posts and that they will not be supported in idleness either there or elsewhere. And this is by order of Major General Granger.
All right. So what are you getting from that paragraph? What jumps out to you?
What jumps out to me is kind of going back to that Lyndon B. Johnson quote, a proclamation is not law. It states here, a proclamation from the executive branch. So we obviously know this isn't law. Also, what jumps out to me is the relationship change. So instead of it being master and slave, we'll just reclassify it as employer and employee or hired labor. Also that freedman term, they just added a D. I'm not sure if a D is supposed to represent Negro or not, but as we stated earlier, where does this term come from? It comes from Great Britain, pertaining to the newly freed European that came from Great Britain. Also, what comes out to me is that they won't allow you to just sit idle. So are you really free if you can't control your own time? So ain't no, okay, you're free now, I can relax because I've been working on this military work camp for X amount of, years. It's nah, you're gonna continue to work. And if you don't, we have something in store. That's how it sounds to me.
Okay. Scroll back up to the top of that document. Okay. War of Rebellion. So another document, even though it's not coming out of government, it's coming from an officer. Still no sign of civil war, right? Scroll down just a little bit because this is official records. All right, stop right there. Union and Confederate armies. So I'm going to ask the people that are listening, whose government is Confederate? Is it the European or is it the Americans? It's the American. They had the Iroquois Confederacy, which is the Europeans that first encountered them. So keep this in mind. Now let's scroll down to that first paragraph that you just read, Chief Pico. Okay. We got two different groups of people that this military person is referring to. He's referring to slaves and he's referring to freedmen. Okay. If we are the Confederates, we lost land or territory by default under war terms when you become a prisoner of war or a slave. Now let's look at freedmen. This is how we know it's two different people. And we know that freeman comes from the word from the Militia Act of 1755. Watch this. The freedmen are advised to remain quietly at their present homes and work for wages. Slaves don't have homes. Freedmen had homes. The freedmen are the Europeans rebelling against their government. So here you got a military officer from the Union Army telling those Europeans who were rebelling, you stay in your home and you can still work for wages. Now watch this. They are informed that they will not be allowed to collect at military posts. What would a slave be collecting at a military post for?
Right.
The freemen, which are the Europeans,
Wow.
bucking against their government. This Union military major is telling them, It's like they traded places in Galveston, Texas. They traded places. The freedmen are in homes and you're going to work for reasonable wages, but you're not going to be able to collect that military post. Why? Because you went on the American side. And now that we've recaptured this area, you're going to fall up under the freedmen term, and we're going to create a freedmen's bureau through the War Department. We'll get into that. Going back to this last sentence, they are informed that they will not be allowed to collect that military post and that they will not be supported in idleness either there or elsewhere. That's the penalty for the European freedmen. Stay your ass in the house, work. You can't get no check from the goddamn military post because you're under military occupation. This general order is no different than a special field order. Hopefully everybody that's listening is following along with the document. So 2 different groups of people. Now, we're going to continue to read, and it's going to make sense why the freedman is the European. We already know slaves don't go to military posts to collect nothing.
Exactly.
And a slave shouldn't have a house.
Correct.
So we talking 2 different groups. Go ahead.
There's no way to break this down any more simple.
Go ahead. It's on you.
No, I'm just saying it can't get any more simpler than that. That's just plain and simple. I don't really have much to say about it.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think you just clearly identified each of these groups and clearly identified who this freedman is, and it goes hand in hand, runs parallel to that Freedmen's Bureau Act, because it said the freedmen and refugees of rebel states. Again, slaves don't have homes to go back to. This says their present homes, meaning they had homes before. So what slave had their own home that they can go back to and again work for wages? So again, clearly identified these 2 groups. And let's continue to build off of these other 2 general orders here. Drop here. So the next order we have is General Orders number 4. And as we scroll down, again, coming from Major General Granger. So again, another general making an announcement, because we know that generals cannot make law. So as we see here, all acts of the governor and legislature of Texas since the ordinance of secession are hereby declared illegitimate. All civil and military officers and agents of the so-called Confederate States government or of the state of Texas, and all persons formerly connected with the Confederate State Army in Texas will at once report for parole at one of the following places or
Stop right there. Back up and go back to the beginning. Break that down.
All acts of the governor and legislature of Texas since the ordinance of secession are hereby declared illegitimate.
Stop right there. Imagine yourself on a horse going into a town. That army personnel is speaking to the people that work for the state. In that first statement, picture yourself on a horse with your army, and you're coming into the middle of the town square, and you're saying all acts of the governor and legislator of Texas since the ordinance of secession are hereby declared illegitimate. So you're setting that stage up front. Shit y'all tried to pull ain't real. Then his next statement is all civil and military officers and agents of the so-called Confederate States government or of the state of Texas. So we're talking 2 different governments. And all persons formerly connected with the Confederate State Army in Texas will at once report for parole at one of the following places. Parole is for what?
Prisoners.
Prisoners.
Yeah.
So they're telling these European freedmen that your ass finna be paroled.
Wow.
For siding with the Americans. Y'all following me?
2 different people. I mean, yeah, 2 different distinctions.
So what you see is there you got the peasant European getting paroled, and we're also going to be quasi lumped in with the European, but we're losing our de jure territory, our keep reading. We're gonna get into it. Anything y'all want to build on that part right there?
Go ahead, Chief.
No, it's pretty simple. I mean, it definitely continues to identify what you should be able to definitely distinguish between who are they talking about in regards to the Americans and the freedmen.
Just clearly states, clearly shows how these so-called Confederates can't be a part of a Confederacy. And the European United States citizen is continuing to smack its cousins upside the head, telling them, you know good and damn well you can't be no Confederacy. That's what it's showing within this first few sentences to me. Also, again, just showing how they'll be treated as pretty much, like you said, prisoners who pretty much are just going to be released because they now are going to be going to certain places for parole. So again, it just rhymes with that freedmen and refugees from rebel states, and it aligns with that amnesty proclamation as well. And who can give pardons and amnesty? A president. So it's all pretty much showing their powers and how they're all in alignment as far as this coming up underneath the executive branch. Let me see, I'll continue here. Or such others as may be designated hereafter to the proper U.S. officers to be appointed. Houston, Galveston, Bonham, San Antonio, Marshall, and Brownsville. Although their long absence from their homes and the peculiar circumstances of their state may palliate their desertion from their organizations, this order will be strictly and promptly complied with. The above mentioned and all other persons having in their possession public property of any description, whatever, as arms, horses, munition, etc., formerly belonging to the so-called Confederate States or state of Texas, will immediately deliver it to the proper U.S. officer at the nearest above mentioned places. So I'll stop right there. So as we see here, they're going to rope off any people or any persons connected with this, so-called Confederate State Army of Texas. They're going to have you go to one of these locations, whether it be Houston, Galveston, all of these listed above, to be assigned your parole, and any, property or any type of any material that you have, and it goes on the list, whether it be arms, horses, munitions, they all must be given back or sent to your nearest U.S. officer at the above mentioned places. So while you come to get your ass, your parole length and all of that stuff, make sure you bring them arms, the munitions, hell, even bring your horses. I don't care if they were your personal horses. Bring all that here because it's getting confiscated.
Right. But in addition to that, where it says the above mentioned, I don't know if you can highlight that on the document. The above mentioned and all other persons.
Nah, it won't let me highlight it.
Okay,
But we got it
that's
here.
fine. So we see where he's starting off talking about so-called Confederates, the freedmen, and he's talking about officers of the state of Texas. But then he goes down here. Remember, he's on horse coming in with his army. He starts off penalizing, hey, we're gonna send y'all here for parole. But then he says the above mentioned and all other persons having in their possession public property of any description, whatever. So the Union was seizing the whole damn town of Galveston.
Yeah.
Not only the motherfuckers who bucked, free goddamn body. We taking free speech as arms, horses, munitions formerly belonging to the so-called Confederate States or state of Texas will immediately deliver it to the proper U.S. officer at the nearest of above mentioned places. If you're turning stuff in to the military, what does that make you?
Right.
Yeah.
Property of the military.
Prisoner of war. If
Right.
you're being paroled by the military and shipped to Houston, Galveston, Bonham, San Antonio, Marshall, and Brownsville, what does that make you? A prisoner of war.
Right.
And if they can go to every house in Galveston and say, you know what, we done already start punishing and shipping off the people who buck that was once a citizen of our government. Now we season the whole damn town.
Yeah.
Everybody that's got
Just
something
strip them of everything.
is
So-
coming up under the U.S. government.
Wow.
So like you stated earlier, how we got caught up in the bullshit.
Mhm.
The American, would that also pertain to us as far as all other persons, even if we had nothing to do with it? But
Mm.
we're in that town and we see, like you stated, this man on a horse with hundreds of other men on horses or men with munitions coming to seize property, regardless of if you were a part of this so-called Confederacy. If you in that town and you have any of the above, I can see now how we got roped into being confiscated as far as our land and
Right.
material, inventions, everything underneath the sun.
Now I'm wondering, why was it just Galveston, Texas?
Hmm.
Am I missing something there?
It wasn't. It wasn't. There's
No.
so many, there's, and people can do this just for a fun research.
Mhm.
You could just put in special field orders and general orders and just watch how many come. They were doing this
By state.
Yeah.
all over the South. They were
Okay.
they were deploying military officers doing the same bullshit, general orders and special orders.
Great question, though. Yeah. And this is just, like you said, this is just one example of one particular town.
Mhm.
Let me see here. I'll continue reading. When they cannot carry it, so when they cannot bring, the arms, horses, munitions, etc., when they can't carry it themselves, again, they talking about not only the quote unquote U.S. Army or Confederate Army officers, but all persons, when they can't carry it and have not the means of transporting it, they will make to the same officer a full report of its character, quantity, location, security, etc. All persons not complying promptly with this order will be arrested as prisoners of war, sent north for
Stop right
imprisonment.
there. Stop right there. That's why we're telling you you're prisoners of war.
Mhm.
Right here. It's telling you he's a little bit more detailed than Sherman was
Mhm.
in the Southeast region, but basically you on lock
Wow.
to account for everything in Galveston. And if you buck this jack, your ass will be arrested as prisoner of war.
Mhm.
Mm.
Shout out to anybody who's vibing with us tonight. How many people we got in the building, Chief Firewater?
48 people.
Shout out to the 48 people in the chat rocking with us, man, as we drop this proof of claim. Here it is right here. This is how we became under military occupation. This is the operating procedure for what they did. Come in under the guise of fighting one group and put everybody under goddamn occupation and account for every goddamn item in that territory and start shipping motherfuckers off that's bucking. So
Right.
all in slavery was really military.
Military occupation.
Occupation. Absolutely. Because it says here, all persons not complying, not
Mhm.
former so-called Confederate, again, state army men. They're saying all persons. So if you in this town, in this territory, hell, you ain't even got to hear this announcement. We made it
Right.
public. And if your ass wasn't in that vicinity, ignorance of quote unquote the law, even though this isn't a law, is no excuse, is what they're pretty much saying. So we gonna
Mhm.
come up and run ramshack, pillage anything that you have. Let me see here, and their property forfeited. So again, the confiscation of our lands. All lawless persons committing acts of violence, such as banditry, guerrillas, jayhawkers, horse thieves, etc., are hereby declared outlaws and enemies of the human race and will be dealt with accordingly by order of Major General Granger.
So in real life, if I had my own little settlement in Galveston and this shit went down, all my shit gonna be forfeited. Short and simple. If your ass lived in Galveston, your shit got forfeited.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. So yeah, this is very, very interesting. Very interesting read here. I'll continue here to the next general order. I actually have to pull this up on another document, so bear with me. And this document will be dropped as well for you all. Okay, I believe it's right here. All right, so I'll read General Orders number 5. It states here, until the arrival of the proper treasury agents in this district, all cotton may be turned into the quartermaster's department for shipment to New Orleans or New York, there to be sold to the United States purchasing agents. No cotton or other products of insurrectionary states can be shipped on other conditions. And again, it says by command of Major General Granger. So going back to what you stated earlier, Chief Alligator, in regards to, again, not only seizing these properties, but also seizing any type of raw material, and how this will be pretty much sold by the United States once, United States Army rather, once confiscated.
Right. And so what we're showing is exactly what happened on the Southeast region of North America, as well as in Galveston, Texas, all over. The military, the union came in, locked down the whole town, paroled those who they could identify that was European that sided with us. That's why they called them the so-called Confederacy.
Mm-hmm.
Those citizens that had their own shit that was American, your shit getting confiscated. And then they're seizing all income that town was generating. All money went through the quartermaster's department. Didn't we hear that word quartermaster in the Special Field Order 15 from Carolina to Florida? So we can see that what TV showed us and what really happened is two different things. The quartermaster was the banker for the Army. So let's just say it's a couple of families in Galveston that had that cotton business bumping. They just lost all revenue because the quartermaster is going to create new relationships with New Orleans and New York. So what if you were shipping cotton to somebody else? So now your customer base no longer gets product because the quartermaster then came in and said, we shipping that shit to New Orleans and New York.
And not only just cotton, other products as well. So if, again, you're in one of those insurrectionary states, which, again, a lot of our families originate from, then any type of product, any industry, whether it be cotton, whether it be tobacco, whether it be corn, anything that was coming out of these states, they're saying here that it can no longer be shipped. Can no longer be shipped off on any condition. They're going to confiscate everything.
All right, let's keep it flowing.
So next, what we have here is a list, again, pretty much just an organizational chart of what comes underneath, in particular, the executive branch. So as we see here, you got the Constitution, you got its 3 branches: executive, legislative, as well as judicial. And executive branch has all of these departments that fall up underneath it. And now it's going to really make sense in regards to, pretty much capturing or robbing those products that come from the land. So we got a Department of Agriculture, Department of Commerce, Department of Defense, Department of Education, Department of Energy, Department of Health and Human Resources, Department of Homeland Security, Department of Housing and Urban Development, Department of Interior, Department of Justice, Department of Labor, Department of State, Department of Transportation, Department of Treasury, and the Department of Veteran Affairs. So all of these departments fall underneath the executive branch. And what's really sticking out to me, and I'll let you all kind of build on what sticks out to you, is how, again, this comes underneath the executive branch. The president is the commander-in-chief of the Army. He's the commander-in-chief of the military as a whole. And we're seeing what departments are underneath the commander-in-chief of the military. That would be your agriculture, your logistics when it comes to commerce, your economy, your education. So we're going to, again, indoctrinate your children into believing what we want them to believe. That way we no longer have to fight them. Also, since we're on the topic of 1968, where it talks about the Indian rights, but also the, what is it, housing. We see here housing and urban development. So also that, and of course, you know, Department of Interior, Justice, Labor, Transportation, etc. So that's what's really
Just control everything.
controlling everything. And it's really just showing, to me, military occupation at its
Right.
finest. In each department, you'll be over this section of this occupation.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Everything that makes the wheel spin.
Well, all of these departments weren't there back then, right? But yeah, the two cornerstones is commerce and agriculture. That's what we just saw in that general order. That's the only thing that army personnel was focused on.
Right.
Let's account for all the product in this town that everybody has, and then let's shut off any incoming and outgoing cash flow patterns. We're going to seize it on both ends, and we're going to redirect it to where we want it to go. I think it's interesting if we just look at the legislative branch, since it's been almost 2 weeks now, and nobody has provided where Congress declared a civil war. Nobody has also provided any proof where Congress defined what a Negro, Black, or colored or Afro-American is. Look at what's under the legislative branch. Architect of the Capitol, Congressional Budget Office, Government Accountability Office. So if we've never been defined by Congress as a group of people, that means that when they're doing their budget, who always gets left out?
Us, every single time.
When the government and its accountability office, who's not accounted for?
Us.
Because when it pertains to that legislative branch, Negro, Black, colored, and Afro-American has never been defined. And you wonder why you never get itemized resources. That's why I always say that you have to look at these terms they use as accounting terms, because everybody's accounted for. Even non-citizens in 2023 are accounted for. They're getting specific resources. The only group of people that never get something specific is us. It ain't hard, y'all. This is a machine and this shit is broken, and we're telling you, you can't fix it. Somebody done put sugar in the tank. You can't fix it. It's broke.
Yeah.
You cannot be a part of something that you were never included in. Now you can try to find weasel words like slave or slavery and try to attach yourself to it. But when you look at the documents, it don't weigh when you put it on the scale. And then when you put it up against the definition of Indian in the 1968 Indian Rights Act, where you at?
Right.
I just personally think too much time has gone by for nobody of our group to say anything about this. You got to look at all your organizations for what they are. 60 years have gone by, and this is not widely known for our group of people.
Correct.
Definitely very important information to know.
Absolutely. And like you said, you know, a lot of these departments weren't established around that time, but I would like to know when they did come into establishment. Because as we always state, we'll hear the coin or hear the term war on this, war on that, war on drugs, war on poverty. I wonder when a lot of these departments popped up, possibly underneath that, you know, War Department, but definitely we understand that it's underneath this executive branch again, underneath that commander-in-chief of the military. So I think that's key in itself, and that's just key in showing, again, our military occupation. With that being said, that brings us to the topic at hand, which is this Juneteenth. And as we look here, we'll see that this was passed in Congress to become a national law. So as we can see here from this tracker, this is going to pretty much give you a breakdown of what has to happen in order for it to become law or be federally recognized. And it says it was introduced, passed Senate, passed House, President signed it, became law. We take a look at these actions. We'll see here, introduced February 25th, 2021. And for the people in the chat, y'all correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't remember, people asking for a damn holiday from all
Exactly.
the 2020 riots, but I could be wrong, but I don't remember that being on the agenda. Then we see here, 4 months later, Senate Committee of the Judiciary discharged by unanimous consent. The same day, passed and agreed to in Senate, passed Senate without amendment by unanimous consent. Then a day later, passed and agreed to in the House on passage passed by, let's see, 415 yeas to 14 nays. Then a day after that, it was presented to the president and signed by the president, and after that, pretty much became law. So we see how they'll be able to, agree when it comes to a holiday supposed to be recognizing our group of people's freedom. But after we just read those general orders in which this Juneteenth holiday comes from, is this something to celebrate? Because we clearly identified who the slave was. We clearly identified who the freedmen were. But that all persons, I'm pretty sure that was a lot of our people's stories. Again, that was particularly talking about Galveston, Texas. But a lot of these general orders, as Chief Alligator stated, you can pull up yourself, and it's probably going to have similar verbiage. But if I'm a person in Galveston, Texas, I know my family does not come from slavery, but I know that our land was taken. I'm not celebrating Juneteenth, and that's just me.
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
I'll let you all kind of build on that.
No, I definitely agree with it. And, I think, again, it's a lack of people actually knowing the history and those who reads general orders and special field orders, for that information. But like you said, more so the people in Galveston, but just overall, us as a whole, on a larger scale, there is no reason for us to be any way feeling compensated to be given this holiday. Like you said, we didn't ask for this. We asked for the police reform, and they give us this instead. So it's definitely embarrassing.
Right. I'm gonna slow it down a little bit because we jumped into this portion without asking the people that's listening along and looking at these documents. If you can check the chat, Chief Quietwater, how many people believe that we're not prisoners of war based on that general order that we just read that happened in Galveston, Texas? Do the people that's listening to this video believe that we're not prisoners of war, that the military was paroling people, shipping people around? If you didn't want to be shipped around, they were going to arrest you and treat you as a prisoner of war? Are we all on the same page with that? I'm just curious to know what the chat is telling you as far as that's concerned, before we get into the holiday, because this is specific to Galveston, just like the 40 acres and a mule is specific to Carolina, to the northern Florida area, right? So I don't have a dog in the fight with Galveston. Never heard of Galveston until right around the pandemic, because I didn't grow up in Texas. Why would I know? You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that other people. I'm speaking for me. When I heard Juneteenth, I was like, what the hell is that? But if my people don't come from Texas, I wouldn't know. So the idea that you put this on all of us, like everybody that's melanated was freed, and not only freed, there's so many lies. You didn't free the people in Galveston. You really put them under the Union Army's military occupation. That's
Right.
what you did. You didn't free no damn body. Even his Emancipation Proclamation didn't free anybody. Why? Congress makes law. So it just shows how the adults are so dumb. And I really believe this is because in order to be this bold with your lies and your actions, you have to have confidence that your school system has dumbed down the adult population under your government at this point. Because this is just bold-faced lies.
Right. Yeah.
What is the chat telling you?
I put a poll up. 14 people have voted. Do you believe that we are prisoner of wars? And 14 people voted yes.
Yeah, when we use that term prisoner of war, we're not just throwing it around because it's different or unique. No, when you look at what's happened to us, it's military occupation. It's
And I
military.
think these general orders and the field order that we read makes it even more clear, even up to this point. Well, I know we've read the Special Order 15, but it makes it more clear right here. If you had doubt before, you definitely should understand why we're using these terms now.
And it's just really unfortunate, like when you ask the question, Chief Quietwater, who reads special field orders and general orders? Normally, when you talk to people that's from an area, let's say a Nigerian, they know about their land.
Right.
We're the only group of people that don't know what happened on our land. And we're so sick as a group of people that when you do run across people who actually want to read the war records and see what actually happened, right? 9 times out of 10, our people will look at us like we're weird.
Right.
But in reality, this is normal. This is why Afghanistan kicked the United States military ass after 20 years. Why? They knew that was their land and they were not going to give it up. But when you hit us with this Pan-Africanism and this out of Africa theory, you're disconnecting us from our grandparents and you're making us think we're from somewhere else. And you got all these fucking military records telling you what happened. I'm gonna stop right there on that. And we can get into the fuckery in the middle of the pandemic. You didn't get a George Floyd Act. They didn't pass to study reparations. What they want niggas to do is booty shake and doo-doo brown. They gave us a Juneteenth holiday. And it's no disrespect to Galveston. If you're from Texas, I'm sure that's special to you. You see what I'm saying? But in the middle of a pandemic, to say that this is what we got, an opportunity to party, when everybody else is getting resources and protection, it was a slap in the face when they did it at the national level.
Yeah, for sure.
And again, just to compare and contrast what we asked for and what we got, let's go ahead and just pull up that, George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. So we had introduced in the House a day before. It was introduced in the Senate, this holiday that, again, nobody asked for. Went ahead and barely passed by 220 yeas to 212 nays, but yet has had no movement since then. It's pretty much dead in the water, stalemate. But again, introduced the day after the George Floyd Act.
Wow.
And passed 4 months later.
They were still struggling just to give us the holiday.
Still struggling just to give you how I say, I guess we'll give these niggas the holiday.
Ooh, man.
It's something. But again, just another slap in the face. We'll let them, as Chief Alligator stated, shake their ass and doo-doo brown. I don't even know what that dance is. Y'all gonna have to help me on that one. But we'll let y'all, shake your ass, for 24 hours, buy fireworks, shoot your guns in the air. But I'll be damned if we protect you niggas. We can't protect you niggas because we never wrote you in the law. So
and just be clear, we're not throwing Juneteenth under the bus. What we're saying is it's a lie to make it on a national level, because when you read what actually happened to the people, you did not free them. What actually happened was everybody went up under military occupation. But again, if you want to hide something from us, you put it in a book. So it even makes it more ignorant of us that we're supposed to know this. We're supposed to know this, and we should be educating and checking people. You see what I'm saying? Because see, what's going to happen is, as this holiday keeps going around, we're in year 2 of it now. What's going to happen is 10 years from now, you'll have random people coming up to you talking about, hey, are you celebrating the slave holiday, the day you were made free? Now you're going to get into arguments with people because people don't think, and people are, through the media propaganda, they're going to start looking at everybody that's melanated, that's American from this land, like, oh, this is the day that they were freed from slavery.
Correct.
That's the
Big
danger
picture
of this. Yes, That's Galveston's thing. Shout out to Galveston. Much respect to Galveston. But when you put this on a national level, now you're going to have little kids in New Jersey talking about, hey, mama, what we going to do for the day they made slaves free? That may not be your story. This shit is crazy. Chief Whitewater, what you saying?
No, I'm agreeing with you. I'm definitely agreeing with you. We got to open up our eyes and realize that it's definitely nothing to, it's not everybody's story, like you said. Just got to open our eyes and understand that.
Yeah, I'm in alignment. Like you said, there's no disrespect to Galveston, Texas, but to put this on the whole group is a lie, disingenuous, and it just continues to go along with the slave narrative that they want us to continue to believe. And if we continue to believe that, then you have no claim to this land because you were bought and sold. You're not from this land, so you can't get repaired for anything that was taken from you on this land. Go ahead, Chief Alligator, you on mute.
No, I'm saying just look at the title of it. Juneteenth, National Independence Day. How was that an Independence Day when you got to turn all your shit in to the Army? That's what we're saying. It's the
Yeah.
hypocrisy of it. How are you saying that this was independence when the damn general order said you got to turn everything into the goddamn Army? And if you don't, you'll be arrested as a prisoner of war and sent north for imprisonment. It's a bold-faced lie. But they're going to get upset because we're actually doing the work. Shout out to everybody who's listening to this live and clicking on these documents and reading it. They think we stupid because we've been behaving as such. But it's the people. I'm going to go back to Dr. Carter G. Woodson. You're supposed to come back to your people after you learn something and put them on game. We got too many people walking around that's quote unquote highly schooled, highly scholared in history for us to be not knowing this information, that how can you on a federal level call this an Independence Day when the damn general order say something completely different? And then everybody gets paid at the federal level for the military taking all your shit. Ain't that a bitch? Everybody gets motherfucking paid from the military taking your shit. The math on this is brutal. Niggas can't count. That's what it is. The niggas in the room that's speaking on our behalf, these niggas cannot count. They don't go in the room with calculators. I don't know what they going in there with, but we coming out on the short end. This is horrible. Independence mean I run my own thing. I call my own shots. I'm selling my cotton and all my products to whoever the fuck I want to sell it to. Not I'm turning my shit over to the quartermaster and he's selling it to New York and Louisiana. Come on, y'all.
No cotton or other products of insurrectionary states can be shipped on other conditions. So that's independence. You're going to take my shit and then I can't sell to who I want to independently. Yet, again, it's called National Independence Day, Juneteenth. Yeah, this, if it don't make sense now, y'all, I don't know what to tell you. I think we clearly just showed, again, why we say we're prisoners of war and how this government will say one thing, but its documents tell another story. And as Chief Alligator stated, as Chief Quietwater stated, we have to be the adults and read these things and put our people on, put our younger generation on to this, or like Chief Alligator stated, 10 years later down the line, you'll have random Europeans, hell, just US citizens in general, or not even US citizens, just anybody that is not American come up to you and say, oh, you celebrating your slave holiday. And those who are indoctrinated, those who are still brainwashed, those who are lost will say, yeah, that's what I'm celebrating. So it's up to us to, again, get this information out. We provided the documents. If some are not able to be dropped, definitely look in the description. You'll have all the documents here because this information has to get out. I can speak for myself. My current job is going to have a whole Juneteenth celebration. So I think it's up to me to go ahead and provide this information to those that want to listen. Whether
Where's
your
the,
go ahead.
now, while you on that, where's the George Floyd Act? Just to comparing, I know you did it, but just to show people how
Right here.
when we're ignorant, we all get lumped in and get disrespected and tried as being ignorant. This George Floyd Act to protect you from police never made it out of the Senate. And one thing about us, we're very intelligent people. Shout out to everybody that's been rocking with us. A lot of people are catching on. We're not dumb people at all. I think our we learn so quick. People are now understanding, okay, Congress makes law, that shit got to go through the House, the Senate, and then the president got to sign it. We can see right here, all the statues being tore down, all the cities being put on fire. That shit never made it out the House of Representatives, the George Floyd Act. But it went through both houses and the president signed a Juneteenth national holiday. So what's more important, your life, self-preservation, or a party?
They know we like the party. That's the thing. They know that we would have been okay with that.
Yeah.
The consent.
It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. Like, we wanted the police to fund it and we watched them spin it.
Right.
And like you said, 3 years later, you got nothing. They threw the George Floyd Act in the garbage can and they gave you niggas a holiday so you can doo-doo brown.
A day later, they introduced this.
Doo-doo brown, for those that don't know, I think your generation call it twerking. Before twerking, there was a group called 2 Live Crew, and they had your aunties and I ain't gonna say parents, but I'm just gonna say aunties and your uncles. You know what I'm saying? He was,
Doo-doo brown.
the women were doo-doo brown and they're popping that, that's what it was back then. Ain't nothing changed. Y'all ain't doing nothing that we didn't start, but let's carry on. Let's carry on. Right.
Yeah, man.
We do shit, but let's stop. Let me stop. I know it's hard to see your aunt or your uncle out there,
I ain't trying to see it. I ain't keep on saying it. It's going right over my head. I ain't even trying to let that shit stick. But yeah, you're absolutely right though. You're absolutely right. And the shit that get me is these dates, man. The introduction date. It introduced the George Floyd Act February 24th, 2021, and they introduced this holiday the day afterwards and ran with that one instead.
Jeez.
That in itself is just like, yeah, what the fuck are we doing? Yeah.
Has anybody is anybody that's listening to this video, is this information that you've never saw? And if so, then part of the knowledge is a gift and a curse. The gift is when you know better, you're supposed to do better. Curse would be now you can no longer say you don't know. So what do we do? Do each one teach one? Do you share this with people that's willing to listen? Like, yo, the history on Galveston? And truth be told, if it's a national holiday, why don't people like us be in front of the TV actually doing what we're doing?
Right.
Teaching about the day.
Yeah. Right. But see, if you tell the truth, it's going to expose that it wasn't an Independence Day. Y'all with me?
Yeah.
So some people in the chat is saying that they've never, that they didn't know. We got a lot of feedback in the chat. Some people didn't know, some people are from Texas and saying how much they celebrated in Texas. So
let me ask a question so I can learn, because again, I didn't hear about Juneteenth until the pandemic. But I'm on the other side of the Mississippi, so that makes sense. What are you taught in Texas? What are you taught about that? Are you taught what we read today? Are y'all aware in Texas of the general orders and how the Army came in Galveston and basically seized everything that everybody had? What are y'all taught? I would love to see what the chat says about that, because this is how we learn. Are the people in Texas more educated about what happened than everybody else in other states, or are we all equally ignorant to what really happened?
Well, so Empress Vicky J says she didn't know. Are you from Texas, Empress Vicky? Enoch 0407 said they didn't know.
Are they from
Um,
Texas? Both of them are from
I'm
Texas?
asking, are you guys from Texas?
Yeah, if you're from Texas, just let us know. What did you learn? What did you learn about this? You don't want to call it an event. Actually, it's very tragic when you think about what happened.
Mhm. Someone said, I'm from New Orleans and moved to Austin after Katrina. This was the first time I had ever heard about Juneteenth. I'd known about Juneteenth since 2012. It didn't make sense to me at the time. Legend of Naga Charlie. So some people did, some people didn't.
Nobody really in Texas is sharing what they really learned about that growing up in Texas. Like, okay. That would be nice to know, like somebody from Galveston or somebody from that South Texas area, like, what do y'all know? Here's what we know what the government did, but there's another story with the people, right? We're looking at what the government did, but on the ground level, them executing what that letter said, that probably was an ugly reality.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people weren't willing to give up their last.
Right.
That's like the army roping off your neighborhood today, saying everybody in this area, your cars,
Confiscating.
everything. Yeah, it's confiscated. Some people gonna go to busting out the window at them. And I'm just like, that's just reality. Like everybody's not gonna say, oh, here you go.
It just goes back to again, that mass movement of people. Again, another trail of tears just happening. It's like you said, if you were unwilling to, give up your land, your property, your assets, your family's homeland, you are now being deemed a prisoner of war and being shipped up north. So now it starts to even come into, realization with that whole great migration and everything like that as well. So we can see how certain puzzles pieces are being put together just off this one document. And again, this is just talking about Galveston, Texas in particular. I stated before, there's many general orders, many special field orders that we can all probably, cite to or read that pertain to a specific, state that would tell another story or tell a certain story that runs parallel with this one. And I think that's the biggest thing I'm taking away. Go ahead.
There's a couple of people, Cherokee Empress, she says she says she's been in Texas for 25 years. My family is from Houston. We learned about the order was made, and we learned that the order was made and we celebrated, but not confiscated. Okay.
So they were taught about general order, whatever the number was, but they didn't know that the army actually took everything from everybody in Galveston.
Right. Gotcha. Mac Don went to school in Fort Worth, and all they ever learned about was the Alamo.
Okay. So yeah, we can see there's a serious problem with the education system, but again, I keep back to Dr. Carter G. Woodson. It's on us to educate each other. I think it should be clearly evident by now that we're literally coming out of these schools retarded when it comes to history, and that's just how they want it. That's the only way that you can do an Indian Rights Act in 1968, and here we are in 2023, and the everyday people are just starting to realize, wait a minute, this government never recognized us. That would have been unheard of statement 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. But as the people are getting more educated, we're gonna make this government. Ultimately, what's gonna happen is we're gonna end up boycotting. And the reason why I'm saying that is because once enough of us wake up and put this government to the test and say, define us in law through your Congress. Once we realize they're not going to do it, then at that point, you have to make the ultimate decision. Do you continue to try to be a quasi-citizen of something, or do you go back to what your ancestors had? Ultimately, that's what knowledge does. When you know better, you do better if you apply the knowledge. Shout out to Napoleon Hill. Applied knowledge is power. Right now, we're just in the learning phase. We're learning the information. As we learn this information, then we start applying it. You're going to start realizing, hell, if they ain't recognize us in 200 something years of this government existence, what make you think they're going to recognize and define you
now?
You know what I'm saying? Because
Yeah.
they define you, now they got to repair you.
Mm-hmm. And now that means it's more shit that they had to repair you for versus 200 years ago.
And how are they going to define you? That's the key, because here's the, see, they done told too many lies.
Yeah.
They traded places and called themselves the American,
Mm-hmm.
even though we are the American. So if they're going to define us, most of us can't go back to our tribes. I'm saying you're lucky if, I ain't gonna say lucky, but think about it. All the towns burnt, destroyed, a lot of records are gone. So are they going to define us as the American? Are they going to try to define us as the slave? Because that doesn't go with American government history. Are they going to try to define us as freedmen? That doesn't go with American government history.
Nope.
So when you use common sense, they can't define you. That's why they have not defined us. Now, what they've done is made everybody be willing to fight us because they've given other groups of people.
You broke out. You broke up.
They gave other groups of people our names. So we've got Europeans walking around saying they're American, and we got 5 civilized tribes in Oklahoma claiming that they're the American Indian. So everybody else is claiming de jure status on this land under a foreign government, but the de jure people have been benign and neglected lawfully under this government. If I'm wrong, I'm just looking at it from an operating manual procedure. This government is a system. It can't run off water. We're the water. We're trying to put water into the engine. It ain't gonna work. I know that sounds like I'm being like a Debbie Downer, but I'm just looking at historical record. If somebody feels different, feel free to share your thoughts on it. But if this government's 246 or 47 years old and it's never defined Negro, Black, or colored or Afro-American, what makes you think they're going to do it now?
Doing that. I'm about to say we have 246 plus or 240 plus years of trial and error to see if this government works for us, and it hasn't. Or if they've defined or has done anything specifically for our group of people, and they haven't. So again, when it comes to this next election cycle, when it comes to, again, giving your energy, your time, your resources into, funding another person's campaign, why waste your time if you have 240 plus years of proof of evidence of data that shows we're not going to write anything for you, we're not going to give you anything? Why even waste your time? What do you need, another 240 years? Like, what is needed until, like you said, we step away completely and just let the whole system fall? Because we already see that there is no money, and shit is backed by nothing. You don't get any resources. Our group doesn't. You're not protected, i.e., you get a holiday, but when it comes to police reform, you on your own. Again, so what more do we have to see as a group before we realize and just say, fuck this whole system, let it crumble?
That's one more thing. It's from my standpoint, it's one more thing. Operation Call Their Bluff. And I just came up with that term off the top of my head. But when I say Operation Call Their Bluff, the next election cycle, the only thing we need to be asking the Black Congressional Caucus is, we need to be defined as a group of people through Congress. Like, really, like, to be honest with y'all, like, to be real for real, we really don't have to wait that long. Like, any day we decide to stand up and be adults and just like shut everything down and be like, look, this need to get done like today.
Right.
Like,
it can definitely happen, clearly.
Like, if that doesn't happen, then I can see stop participating, because we first got to call their bluff. Congress, define us as the American, as the one that's been waged unlawful war on. Like, we have to be defined lawfully. If you're not going to define us lawfully, we're wasting our time. Then, like, that's the ultimate test, because then we're standing up for ourselves. That's where I'm at with it. make this government define us. And if the government doesn't want to define us, then fuck it. Because right now we playing games with us. I mean, everything you just read, Chief Biko, we get it. We've been denied, benign and neglected towns, all that. But they got to hear it out of our mouth. The world has to hear it. We are the American. Define us through your procedure based on your government. We want to be defined just like you defined the Indian in 1968, which that was really our movement. And if they bullshit around and do what they did, like with the George Floyd, they can't get out the house, then fuck it. Fuck your taxes, fuck your military, fuck all this shit. Then we have every right to, because now we've been assuming why we getting our ass whooped. But once we come out our mouth and say, define us, and you don't define us through your Congress, fuck your government. Where y'all at with that?
It's interesting.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, Dark Gable put something in here, the definition of American in 1828, and I just Googled it. So the definition in 1828 of American is a native of America, originally applied to the Aboriginals or copper color races found here by the Europeans, but now applied to the descendants of Europeans born in America.
That's bullshit. That's bullshit. You don't get a chance to switch your bloodline.
Right.
Your family comes from, your family comes from Europe. You don't get a chance to just, no, what happened is you got put out the house and you mad at your parents. 200 some odd years, you still mad at your parents because they put your ass out the house. That's the European that got sent over here to America. He doesn't even want to remember where his bloodline from. No, fuck. That's
absolutely.
But I'm gonna go a step further with this with y'all. Just coming back to that. Being defined by this government. That's where we at. That's the source for this circuit, for us as a group of people. And when I say being defined, that doesn't mean go to them and allow them to give us a definition for who. No, we are the American. And moving forward, if one of the terms would be, if we choose to be a citizen of this government, we will never pay taxes to it. You understand what I'm saying? Like, how are we paying taxes to the same government that confiscated everything from us? That shit makes no sense to me. This is just common sense, get money, accounting thinking. Why would I pay taxes to a government that took everything from me and never defined me in law? Why do I willingly pay taxes to that? We would have to have that Indian not tax status. Like, let all these illegal immigrants, let them pay whatever. That's a whole, but the fact we paying taxes and we not even lawfully defined by the government, it really is embarrassing how, like, you really got to be dumb if you think about that. You're paying taxes to a government that has never lawfully defined your group. And you'll stick your chest out like you proud to do it.
I pay all my taxes on time.
Like You know,
they really just showing, was that shit dunce on your forehead or something? Like, is it what we call sped or something? Like, idiot on your forehead. Because like you said, you saying it with pride. And you saying it with pride, and yet you have no protection. You ain't never been defined. You took all your shit. And still saying, okay, and you still owe us taxes. We done took all your shit and you still owe us more. Like, huh?
Meanwhile, you got people from other land masses, not even citizens, and not paying taxes. Like, I don't think we know the power we have unless we sit down. I mean, all roads go back to sitting down, because I don't want to speak that into existence, but again, the trend is your friend. If it's been 247 years and this government has never defined us as the American, not taxed under this government, then we're going to end up having to do what they did in, what was it, Selma, Alabama? Or Montgomery? Which one was the bus boycott? We're going to have, that's the only way we're going to gain self-esteem and realize the power we have. Everybody eats off us. Just sit down.
Yeah.
Just sit down for 13 weeks, one fiscal quarter. 90 days, and watch the power we have. You got motherfuckers over here running small businesses, no social security card, no birth certificate. Come on, y'all. We're underneath illegal citizens. Are you proud to be an American or are you proud to be a U.S. citizen?
Two different things.
So where we at with it, bro?
I think we done buried this shit 3 times now. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
definitely a good build.
Yeah, definitely a good build. Learned a lot. Hopefully those in the chat definitely learned a lot. And like we stated earlier, all of this information will be within that description. Definitely share this, definitely pass it along. Don't gatekeep. As Chief Alligator stated earlier, this is all knowledge that we just, came into awareness of, but we have to apply it. And one way to apply it is by passing it along to someone else, help put them on game. Because again, the quicker we all wake up to this realization that we are prisoners of war on our own land, the quicker we'll be able to get out of our current situation.
We did all the documents?
Yeah, George Floyd was the last one.
Okay.
That was the last one. So as I stated earlier, should definitely pass this information along. If you have any type of celebrations coming up, just give these documents to them. Say, hey, just read this general order and tell me what you think about it. Is this something that you think should be celebrated? And that's all you can do. Lead a horse to water. If they want to drink, that's up to them. But again, have to at least introduce this information to the masses. And I think, that's what we did today, as far as definitely shout out to everybody in the chat for rocking with us, on your Friday, but definitely wanted to get this out before Juneteenth. That way, again, you have time to get this information out. And that's pretty much it for my build. I'll let you all close.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for everybody in the chat that tapped in, and we were real active in the chat tonight. Good information. And like Chief Pico said, just share the information. I know it's new to some. So just spread the information and continue to just build the knowledge with people that you know, so we can wake up.
Yeah, I'm gonna say applied knowledge is power. That's Napoleon Hill. That's not us. That's what we're all about on this channel, providing proof of claim, providing the documents. If somebody can't provide you the documents, then it's their shit. It's time out for us letting people tell us anything. And there's no disrespect to your religious belief or whatever, but the preacher has been able to run this game on us, get in front of us, tell us anything. Politicians get in front of us, tell us anything. All these puppets from all these nonprofit organizations, Black Lives Matter, NAACP, they're all so well-spoken and they get in front of the camera and they tell us anything. It's time for us to be adults and masters of our own destiny and start checking these people. Be like, look, bro, before you start giving me this word salad about what the fuck you think going on, show me the document first so we can see what's really going on. That's the only reason they beating us. We don't read the documents. That's where I'm at with it. We just got to continue to do what adults supposed to do. Kids have fun. Adults solve problems. So that's where I'm at with it. It's been a good bill. Feel free. Oh, I got one request. I should have been asking this. If anybody has the Constitution for the Muskogee or Creek Confederacy, or if you know anybody that may have the Constitution for the Muskogee or Creek Confederacy, we would love to be able to have that document and read over it. We have the Iroquois Confederacy Constitution, but it has been very hard to find the Muskogee or Creek Constitution for the Creek Confederacy or the Muskogee Confederacy. So we'd greatly appreciate it if y'all could put that word out, and y'all can send us an email. The email's on the About Us page. But shout out to everybody, and hopefully we all learned something tonight. And that's my little 2 cents, Chief Biko.
All right.
Well, again, thank you all for tuning in to this, I'll say, TLC presentation. Again, of should we celebrate Juneteenth or not? Again, that's up to the individual, but it definitely, let this information seep in, really read through it again multiple times, share it, because it's definitely important for us to know. Again, this holiday pertains strictly to Galveston, Texas. And again, to make this something that pertains to the masses of our group, I think is a play that will come to bite us in the ass in the future if we allow it to. So again, just be cautious, look at it with discernment. And again, just spread this information. And again, shout out to everybody in the chat. Shout out to everybody who's rocking with us tonight. And we'll see you all on Sunday.
Peace.
Hold on.